this, but welcome to Cardinal House and an AMA with us. It is currently September 5th, 2022, and we're getting started with Daylight here, Project Daylight. And like I said, like I hinted at, we do things a little different. So if you guys are in the audience, go ahead to the AMA polls chat as we kind of go through every time. We go through some more personal questions, more things just about the team. It's those little icebreakers, try and get to know you guys a little bit more outside of who you guys are behind the project, and then get into the project deep dive right afterwards. So I got a couple questions for you if you guys are good for it and ready to go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So for each of you, do you guys prefer spicy food or bland food?
For me, spicy food.
For me, I would say bland food.
I'm actually living in Thailand right now, so it's gotta be spicy food.
Fair enough. I know that if Zach ate spicy food, I think he might die. He lightly will use pepper, but that gets a little bit hot for him some of the time. Would you rather be able to fly or breathe underwater and swim very fast?
I think flying would be more convenient to travel.
It'd definitely be more convenient. I think it'd be way more fun for myself as well. How about you two?
Yes, and there's no shark in the sky.
Yeah, I was thinking the same of flying. There's only birds and planes.
Yeah, I think I'd rather fly as well. Things always look better from up there.
Definitely. All right, an IRL casino or a virtual casino?
Virtual casino, we're building one.
How about for the two of you? Virtual?
Of course, virtual, because we're building one.
Yeah, virtual too.
Yeah, you kind of have to say virtual. I get it. Texas Hold'em or blackjack?
Texas Hold'em will be our first game, so Texas Hold'em.
just personal preference. Is that what you prefer then too?
It's also what I prefer. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I guess for me as well, Texas Hold'em. Except if I had another choice, then I guess it would have been roulette.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, for me, actually, blackjack. I don't know how to play Texas Hold'em.
Awesome. Love it. All right, next up. Would you rather be street smart or book smart?
I would say street smart. I think you'd eventually get there.
I think for me it's a mixture of both.
Mixture of both, just a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think street smart.
Awesome. Okay. Fair enough. I think most people have said street smart so far. Next up, would you rather live in the country or live in the city?
For me, it's always been the city. I like to have everything nearby.
Gotcha. How for you too?
In the country, but with good internet connection. That is imperative.
Definitely feel that. Yeah, 100%. And then how about you?
I think neither. Right outside the city is fine.
Okay.
Suburbs.
Okay. Fair enough. I think that's definitely my sweet spot as well. I think the country sometimes can be a little bit too out of the way. But then at the same time, I'm living in a big city right now, and it's very, very packed. It's hard to get places. I live right in the center of Dallas right now, so I definitely I feel the city life wearing down. If you're on vacation, would you rather be backpacking / traveling or staying in a resort?
For me, it would be in a resort.
For me, traveling.
And how about you, Ted?
Resort, of course. I'm not built for the rest.
You said, of course. You chose the country, but then you chose the resort. Okay.
We're getting a bit spoiled after all these bull runs, you know.
Gotcha. Would you rather be the best in the world at something you love doing, but never be able to do it, or be the worst at that thing, but always be able to do it? This one's a tough one.
I think for
For
me,
me,
I wouldn't mind being the worst, but as long as I keep
You
enjoying
can
what
get
I'm
better
doing,
and enjoy it.
I can
Yeah.
get better eventually. Yeah.
Awesome.
yeah, I agree with that.
How about you, R2?
I was saying that for me, I prefer to be worse at something, but if I keep having the chance to keep doing what I like, then I guess that's all that matters.
Gotcha. 100%. I 100% agree with that. Let's see. We got our next one. All right. Would you rather be an average person 1,000 years from now, or a king 1,000 years ago?
Probably average 1,000 years from now. You know, medieval times aren't so kind. Uh, but you know, it's always a great gratification to be able to start somewhere and then make your way up to the top, and that's when you recognize. That's when you recognize, you know, how good it's been.
Yeah. Yeah. How about for you two?
Yeah, for me, I would rather be an average person 1,000 years from now, just to see how, I guess, the Earth evolved.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
For me, I would prefer to go back 1,000 years ago, just to
Awesome.
experience
Awesome.
some life without technology and
Uh-huh.
see how it felt like.
You could definitely develop technology then too, right? Because you'd go in knowing what you know now, and then in the future you would not have knowledge that everyone else had about how to operate whatever systems they're using at that point. If if they're even called that. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting question. And then the last one I got for you guys. What do casinos on the blockchain bring to the table that you're most excited about for each of you?
So for me, I think it brings like a platform which is well decentralized, where people can come and enjoy certain games without having to register or to go through their bank account. So there's some kind of privacy, being able to just play anonymously.
Awesome.
I agree with that. I think a lot of people want to stay anonymous. So that's kind of one of the big things for having a casino on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
I think you know, this question really resonates with us, and you know, our mission and our vision to basically provide a very enclosed but at the same time you know, sustainable GameFi or BetFi ecosystem that branches out and you know, assists and backs up a lot of the investors and projects in the industry. I think one of the biggest things that excites me is the permissionless and trustless aspects, as well as the decentralization aspects. You know, fast transactions, privacy and earnings, the ability to, you know, not be ashamed to indulge in such activities, and also to pursue something that I think people really aren't able to pursue in the real world. And creating this avenue is just, it's just what makes it exciting, you know. And the industry, I think the BetFi industry is quite diverse at this point. You know, there are a lot of games as a service protocols, but to create something really immersive as this sector is completely ripe for disruption.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think that decentralization, like you said, with the anonymity for or at least you guys brought up, that is definitely something interesting to at least an interesting idea to entertain for as long as possible. We'll have to see kind of where things lie in the end, but I think that you guys are definitely bringing up some interesting questions, especially when it comes up to the casino game. So, kind of branching from that, why don't we start to get into you guys, who you are, what roles you play on the team, and then we'll go into the project and everything else.
Of course, of course. I'll let the others go first, and then I'll pitch in as well at the end.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So whoever wants to start first, who are you? What role do you play on the team? And then we'll go from there.
You want to start, Nadia, or should I start?
You can start.
Okay, so I'm O2, and if you've seen the light paper, I'm currently Roshan among the co-founders. So I'm acting as the CEO and co-founder on Daylight Protocol. And a brief background about me. So I'm actually a manager in one of the big four, which is Deloitte, and I have several years of experience in private equity, real estate, and also on TradeFi and telecommunication companies. Right now, I'm currently the CEO on Daylight Protocol, and my main task is to see that the project is running correctly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, very, very interesting. So you come from the TradFi background, and then
Yes, so we can say that I have quite a diverse and extensive experience dealing with lots of real life firms such as we can say the biggest funds in the world. So do have like more of a financial exposure.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Then I guess how about you? I believe it's Nadia. Is that correct?
I'm Nadia.
Yes.
So I am currently functioning as the COO for the team, and I have experience in operations as well as like in program management for hardware development and software development. So I'm kind of just helping out to set up the operations for the team. And it's been interesting to learn, like, I guess, Web3 development works.
It's definitely a different back end than most well than anything web 2, 100%. I've seen, at least
Yeah.
yesterday I was even talking to someone that's coming from web 2 background. They're very, very smart, but they still have that piece where, like, yeah, I still don't, it's still very, very different, so it's hard to kind of grasp what's going on here when they're reading smart contracts and that kind of thing. So definitely an
Yeah.
interesting thing.
Mhm.
And
That's
then
true.
awesome, awesome. How about for you, Ted?
So I'm one of the founders of Daylight. Basically, putting the product into inception is what I do as the CPO, the CMO. Um, I'm basically responsible for designing the product, the tokenomics, overall business and economical plan of the project in alignment with the outcome of development. I have a very deep and diverse experience in both DeFi and centralized finance in the blockchain world. So I've been, investing as well as building DeFi applications for about 2 to 3 years now. Um, with a multitude of experiences. Before that, I was working in private equity, where I did a lot of management and consulting, as well as advisory for certain big protocols like the Sandbox, Rev Racing, a lot of the Animoca brands, and eventually came deep into building DeFi applications. Daylight is one of the prominent projects that we're working on, which is inspired by the era of rebases and DeFi 3.0, and we're seeking to create something that is sustainable and poised to survive, supported by longevity and sustainability. So this is a brief overview of what I do, and any questions from now, we'd be happy to answer them.
Awesome. So, yeah, I think that you guys have a very good understanding, or you guys are very set in the different roles that you guys are kind of really trying to address and provide your specific kind of skill set you're bringing from your backgrounds into what you're doing here at Daylight. I don't really have too much on those questions, but if you guys want to start talking about the project itself, and we can start at the top and then slowly get into a deeper overview as we kind of go, if you guys are good with that.
Yeah, of course. So I'll basically give a very brief introduction of what the project is. Project Daylight was created, and brought into inception about 2.5 months ago with the intention to stabilize the DeFi 3.0 space by ascertaining measures in place to mitigate price manipulation, depreciating value of assets, and combat certain sustainability issues that are faced in the industry by other protocols in the space. So we all know that October to November 2021 was a very, very good bull run, and a very prominent era for rebase tokens, ohm forks, and other really, really high potential earning projects in the space. However, what we've been seeing lately is a lot of it being replicated without the intention to combat such sustainability issues and create an enclosed ecosystem where people can actually earn, and to prolong the longevity of a project through additional utilities, use cases, deflationary measures. And I think this is what is lacking in the space, hence why Daylight was created. So Daylight protocol is basically a cross-chain casino and a BetFi ecosystem that is powered by a decentralized income mechanism. We're going to be launching on the BNB chain, and we have two primary tokens that are used to support the protocol. One is a deflationary rebase token. When I say deflationary, it's because basically we have more tokens going out of the circulating supply than those that are coming in. And we also have another deflationary emission-based token, which is also a play-to-earn utility token called C Daylight, which powers our casino, Casa Daylight. And this token is an auto-reflection token as well as a governance token that is integrated with the play-to-earn utility. Why I say deflationary again is because we have an emission rate, but with certain burning mechanisms in place that the intention is to never reach the max supply with this token. We've got 3 sustainability funds that basically back up our protocol. We have the treasury, of course, which holds the earnings, which funds the team, and it's where the revenue that is generated is collected. We have the Daylight Planetary Fund, which is used to buy back and burn Daylight tokens, as well as stabilize liquidity pools. We have a certain taxation that contributes towards this fund, and this fund also acts as a liquidity reserve to stop, the imbalances in liquidity when sell-offs happen. And on top of that, we have something called Daylight Vault. So Daylight Vault is an extension of our treasury that will be used to invest in ideas for sustainability, as well as invest in stablecoin in order to build up the liquidity. So this is something that Olympus did, and they saw a massive price appreciation. And as a result, this is, an example of successes in rebase protocols that we're going to be replicating into our own ecosystem. So that's a very brief overview of, what we're doing. To explain more about the casino, our casino is called Casa Daylight. It's our very own GameFi play-to-earn ecosystem that will initially launch only one game, which is Hold'em Poker. Basically, why I say cross-chain is because you can buy into the casino with any prominent currency on any chain. So initially, we're accepting for BNB chain, for instance, BNB, BUSD, USDT, as well as C Daylight. And for Ethereum, for example, we're initially accepting ETH, USDT, DAI, Chainlink. For Avalanche, initially we're accepting AVAX, USDC, and Magic Internet Money. So something really interesting to note about Casa Daylight is that whenever people buy into the casino, the monetary value of them buying in will be an amount of Daylight tokens that is also burnt. And also, we have certain measures incorporated, such as Sea Daylight is burnt as well in proportion. And this is what makes the ecosystem, I would say, at a very, growing at a very slow rate, but a surely appreciative rate.
Awesome. Okay, that definitely is a good little overview of kind of everything interplaying within each other. I mean, I have a couple questions. Firstly, can you go a little more in depth in kind of the interplay between the different tokens that you guys have with the deflationary model, and then is that the same token being used in the casino? It's a separate token, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would you mind talking about a little bit about the interplay between those two, and why you have that deflationary model around the rebase token as well?
Of course. So, basically, when you buy into the casino, what you receive is poker chips. Now, these are non-fungible, non-tradable. They only appear in-game and can be cashed out at monetary value into Sea Daylight tokens. So, the currency that you earn from playing to earn is basically in Sea Daylight. Regarding the rebase token Daylight itself, so Daylight is a rebase token that gives you 160,000 APY per year. However, this APY is decaying, and we plan to start decaying it from the first 3 months itself until it reaches a very small value that will basically reward token holders auto reflections, and at a much smaller APY. Now, the auto reflections we have in mind could be either BNB or BUSD. That's something that we're still, thinking about how feasible each option is and how sustainable each option is. So for Daylight token itself, it's got a buy tax of 15%, a sell and transfer tax of 20%, as well as a dynamic tax ladder to tax, whales or token holders who own more than 1% of the LP for a higher taxation amount when they sell. So one thing really interesting to note is that when Daylight tokens are sold, the remainder of the tokens that are not collected in the tax are completely burnt. Now, we also do not have a mint function because we want the supply discovery to be very organic. We want the supply discovery to be very unmanipulated by the team itself, so we cannot mint anything at will. However, what we have is our smart contract called the Aurora. Now, the Aurora basically burns a total of 2.5% of circulating supply weekly and mints 1% of circulating supply weekly. So this is to ensure that there are tokens coming into circulation, but those that are also there are burnt. Now, this is, you might be wondering why we don't just do straight up 1.5% burn. This is because tokens are first minted and then burned. So this would keep, sort of a depreciating amount of the circulating supply itself. But at the same time, have tokens in circulation. So it'll be going down at a much slower rate in terms of circulating supply. But, that way we're able to not completely shave off the entire supply and keep it ever growing. Now, moving on to our second token, Sea Daylight. Sea Daylight is basically the token that you use to swap, stake, earn. You can buy into the casino with Sea Daylight, and you can also vote on certain roadmap items or any governance items that are incorporated into our protocol itself. C Daylight will pay you auto reflections at about a 2 to 5% rate. This is also again to be confirmed in Daylight tokens itself. So C Daylight is a token with no buy or sell tax itself, and this is one of the tokens that we aim to take to market and list on centralized exchanges so that we can actually have, a larger user acquisition and a larger user base in the long term.
Okay, yeah, it seems like the user acquisition is going to be really that key part to getting you up and off the ground. Kind of with the whole structure that you guys are building. When how far out into in the future is the launch going to be? And I'll start there.
So we actually have our pre-sale tentatively on the 12th of September. However, there's a plan to delay it by 1 week exactly to the 19th of September. The public sale would tentatively take place in week 1 or week 2 of October and launch 24 hours after the public sale is concluded. So that's the overall timeline. The token will launch with its rebase utility and also, incorporate certain burning mechanisms. We plan to release a minigame or roulette sometime, probably a month after, and then we plan to release the full-fledged casino at the end of this year or in Q1 next year.
Got it. Okay, so it sounds like you guys got a pretty decent roadmap, and I was looking through. I believe your roadmap goes out to what, Q3, Q2 of next year.
Yeah, it goes up to Q2 of 2023. The reason we're not
Yes.
planning, 18 months or somewhere too far ahead is because market conditions play a very volatile and daunting role in how projects pivot, and we don't want to predict and basically be too ambitious when it comes to detailing our roadmap. So we have some clear key points that we're aiming to achieve. This is what we're going to stick with. And then after that, we're going to think of more use cases, sustainability, but we're not going to come up with contingency plans that, happen as a result of a damaged protocol. We do want to market as well as acquire users at a very steady way, steady rate and in the right way. So as to keep our growth as sustainable and less volatile as possible.
Yeah, awesome. I guess kind of with that point that you bring up, the market conditions determine a lot of how many users are actually going to come into the protocol, come into the pre-sale. Is there, I guess first bit of that, is there a plan if the pre-sale doesn't go as expected because of these the number of users that you might need and number of early pre-sale investors that you might need, or kind of branching off of that, if there is a plan, what is that plan, and would pre-sale be delayed or would something else change?
Of course. So, we do plan to launch the pre-sale with a very strategic marketing plan in mind. We do have one up and running right now. We're starting off with very low, I would say low intensity tasks, such as getting exposures via AMAs. Also one of the reasons we're in Cardinal House today. But, we do have a certain budget and we're working with certain influencers as well on the side. Now, we also have two ways that the pre-sale is going to go. One is it's going to be hosted on our website. Number two is we're going to do a pre-sale on Pink Sale instead to gain more exposure. So that's some of the plans that we have in mind. We do plan to fill the hard cap quite easily. I think that's not a problem with the building up that we've been doing. However, if it does fail, and this is always a possibility, what we're going to do is we're going to probably pass on a vote to either refund or hold on to the funds, and then after that we're going to be ramping up efforts, because it is imperative that we raise the pre-sale in preparation for the public sale. The public sale is what will fund the liquidity.
Gotcha. So is 100% of the public sale going into LP? Where are those funds headed? And then also, what is that hard cap that you guys are expecting to hit?
So the current hard cap for the pre-sale is 180,000 USD. The soft cap is 80,000. This will go towards a marketing budget for the public sale itself. The public sale will be raising a certain amount of funds, at the moment undecided, but it's probably going to be about 10 times the amount raised in pre-sale. 60% of that would go towards liquidity, and the rest would be kept in the planetary fund, the treasury for some, pay off some team salaries, keep the project running before we start making revenue for about 1 to 1.5 months. And then, the rest of it would go into Daylight Vault, which is our SAFU fund.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. It is the what fund?
Our SAFU fund. So it's basically a contingency fund in the case of exploits, sharp sell-offs, basically to restore the power and hopes of the protocol in case of such events.
Got it. Okay. Fair enough.
This SAFU fund is basically, in case you get exploited, this is something we'd restore to liquidity, and it's in no way related to SAFU protocol. So please, no confusion, guys.
Got it. Okay, and that definitely makes sense. Kind of with everything you got going on, right? Let's say that hard cap is 180, I believe you said. I thought I saw some other numbers up on the light paper. Maybe I misread. But I saw like the different pre-sale prices. Your seed funding round, I believe, was like a 0.025 cents or dollars.
Correct. So the pre-sale. Correct. So the pre-sale price is 0.025, and the launch price is set to be 0.1, which is, a 4x with no vesting. This is what makes it, quite an attractive investment, and that's why we're keeping the pre-sale hard cap very, very small, so that it doesn't eat up our liquidity in the case of sharp sell-offs on launch. It's approximately going to be, if everything goes according to plan, we hit both hard caps for the pre-sale and public, it's probably going to be about 10 to 14% of the overall liquidity itself.
Got it. And I assume that's why you have these other funds that you're keeping on the side with the treasury and everything as well.
Correct.
Gotcha. So is the main purpose for having that 4x mechanic in just because of in order to attract new investors? Is that kind of the idea behind it?
It's basically just to offer people a very exclusive spot in the pre-sale. The pre-sale funds will go entirely towards marketing the public sale itself, and therefore, since it's an important small amount of finance and capital, this is why we're making our pre-salers a very exclusive offer.
Got it. Okay, very, very interesting. You guys have a very unique way of going about things, and I understand capping it at the low amount, considering that you're gonna have a 4x after launch. Is there anything going into the protocol? Because at the times being what they are, 180,000 is still a tough number to hit, which I don't think you guys are worried about as much about hitting that 180, because again, that's just incentivizing the sell-offs, like you'd said. But is there anything you guys are doing, or is there any number you're waiting to hit before your actual launch? Because I believe there was other pre-sale rounds that slowly started to go up from that price, up to
Correct.
8 cents at one point.
Correct. So there is a public sale, or what you call a fair launch. The fair launch is basically the last token sale that we're gonna do before the IDO, and the IDO will take place on our DEX itself. So basically, the soft cap price for the public sale will be 5 cents, and the hard cap price will be 8 cents. What this means is it's going to follow sort of a price discovery for the public sale itself, meaning the more people buy in, the more the price goes up. So if you're first, you get it at 5 cents. If you're last, you get it at 8 cents or 7 cents, which is and not the best case for you, but then, it creates a very sort of, it creates a FOMO action basically on the public sale itself.
Mhm.
So
And
the soft cap that we're aiming to hit in the public sale itself is $950,000. The reason why it's a very big amount and is number one, we're going to be having the pre-sale funds that will be allocated towards marketing this sale for us. And number two is because we plan to supply at least 60% of those funds that, to go towards liquidity. We want to be a very liquid protocol, and I see a lot of our competitors, or rather rebase protocols such as Titano, even 100 days, and other protocols in the space that have substantially low liquidity as opposed to the circulating supply. This is something we want to avoid, so that we mitigate any criticism as well as any damage towards the protocol itself.
So is there a certain, considering the 4x, mechanics that we spoke about, is there any soft or hard cap you need to hit on the fair launch before actually launching the IDO?
Correct. So as I said, the soft cap is 950,000 USD.
Okay. And then the hard cap, I believe it was significantly more than that, correct?
Correct. The hard cap will be set at 3.8 mil.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Very, very interesting. Kind of moving forward, we got a couple questions coming in from the audience. And one of those, we see a lot of partnerships in DeFi. Are there any partnerships that you guys have been planning as well?
Of course. So I'll start off with the very first partnership that we have in mind, which is going to be Bioconomy. Bioconomy is basically a plug-and-play API for DeFi protocols. We'll be incorporating two important features from them into our protocol itself. So the first one would be going gasless, because our DEX as well as our GameFi ecosystem is going to be gasless. So if you buy into the casino, you make swaps on our DEX, you're not going to be paying for gas. And number two is going to be their API hyphen, which enables cross-chain swaps. So basically you can, and that's something we'll be integrating into the casino. We're going to do a very special routing that enables, so on the surface, if you want to buy $100 worth of casino chips, but you've got $100 on ETH, you can do that. However, the way our routers actually work is that you're buying $100 worth of C Daylight, which is then converted to $100 worth of casino chips. And once it's converted, the C Daylight that you convert into casino chips is 100% burnt. So that's on the surface, and that's what our router is doing behind the scenes as well.
Got it. Okay, fair enough. We got a couple more. So with everything that you guys are doing, right? You guys do have a lot of competition getting into the casino game of DeFi. What are you guys doing that kind of changes the game a little bit, takes a little away from the competitors, and puts you guys in a more competitive light?
Of course. So to answer your question, and I think there's been a lot of confusion about how we're going about things. There are certain casino and BetFi ecosystems out in the space, such as BetsWorld, for instance, that do games as a service. With their partnership with Sphere Finance, for example. However, we're not aiming to be a service provider. We're aiming to have our very own immersive casino ecosystem. So that means you play on chain, it will be on our DApp, and it's a collection of only a few games. So we're doing something that's immersive, gives you feel, once you sit down in the casino, you can start chatting with your peers, you start feeling like you're James Bond. And that's the experience that we're aiming to give, and not, just incorporating other tokens into our ecosystem, providing our mini games as a service to their token, and that's what I think differentiates us a lot from what the other protocols are doing in the space.
Gotcha. Okay, very very interesting. Kind of with that, you want it to be a more personal, interactive environment. Um, do you guys have any plans to integrate? Because I know a lot of online casinos, I think, struggle with that piece because there isn't, for example, voice chat or anything like that where you can actually, speak as you're kind of going on. Do you guys plan on integrating anything along those lines?
So we do plan on integrating a text chat into our game, our DApp
Hmm.
itself. However, we do want to also build the community in parallel. So what we're going to do is we're going to have several channels open in Discord where if people are playing together, they plan a game together, or they join, a generated room with a certain code, they can get on the voice chat in there, and that's how we're, providing an immersive ecosystem at the same time within our you know, within our socials itself, but at the same time, we're having an alternative on the DApp.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Very fair. Um, so we have couple more. One of the things I do want to touch up on again. Is there any downside, like going back to the soft and hard cap that you guys are shooting for? Is there any downside in your eyes, to maybe not hitting those numbers that you guys are shooting for? Because obviously we've seen a lot of projects recently that are also very 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 quality projects, launching and unable to hit the numbers they're expected just because the market is ridiculously poor right now. DeFi in general is struggling, but also just the market as a whole is being hit really, really really hard. And so is there anything that you guys would either, let's say you don't hit those soft caps on, on that second, on the fair launch, for example, what would you guys do at that point? Would there be an extended pre-sale for that fair launch pre-sale before the IDO, or what would be the play there? Because there is a lot of I think concern because you guys do have a relatively high um pre-sale soft and hard cap that you're shooting to hit, and so I'm curious to see what the thoughts are there.
Um, um, I'm sorry, but I didn't understand if you were talking about the pre-sale or the
Both.
fair
So
launch
so
caps.
the I'm sorry,
Okay,
the
okay, so
mhm.
yeah, so for the pre-sale, we're gonna have to work with a smaller marketing budget. However, since we plan to go on pink sale, it's something that we think it's gonna sell out really fast, especially if we invest a few thousand into marketing. With the right connections, of course, which I think we have some good connections in the space. Regarding the actual fair launch itself, now there is a possibility, of course, we don't hit that 950,000 that we want to
Mhm.
achieve. However, if we're able to hit the hard cap of the pre-sale, which is 180,000, just imagine how much marketing 180,000 budget would get you. Um, so we do plan to actually 8 to 10x that and raise substantial amount of funds for the fair launch itself.
Okay. Okay. Um and would there be a delay on the IDO if the fair launch didn't have that soft cap? Like just kind of, prepare, expect the best, but prepare for the worst situation.
I think what we'll do is probably put it to a vote because we do want to get a lot into governance.
Hmm.
So users can either, let's say we hit 800,000 instead, you would get the option to vote between putting 600,000 into liquidity or 500,000 and then, doing an IDO, or you will also get the option to extend the public sale, or the final option would be to refund the users, and then we think about how to make forward from there. I know it's a very daunting question in the
Hmm.
space. I know a lot of people don't really know what to say, but we don't plan to shut down the project because we hit a small roadblock. We actually want to come up with a sustainable plan that will set us up for success, by learning where exactly we failed.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, that definitely makes sense, and I think including the community into at that point, once you have investors, they're more than just a community member that isn't affiliated with the project. So I think including at least the people that have already put money in is definitely the best way to go about things, and letting a vote, or letting some kind of split system where people can one by one request, and then others could leave the money in for the pre-sale, or something along those lines. But I definitely think that you guys are on the right idea there. The biggest I guess that's really like it for community questions so far. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to throw them in the AMA questions chat, and we'll be asking them. But I think the biggest thing as far as the casino scene goes, that I've seen, is casinos really trying to implement a lot of features, as far as whether it be that text chat as well, but other features to engage communities and that kind of thing. What kind of marketing do you guys see yourselves doing with some of those funds that you're talking about? Because I have seen a lot of, you said you're not getting into the service business, but what kind of marketing for the casino itself do you see uh, in your horizon?
So, now we're reaching a point in the conversation where, we're basically speculating that the casino is already launched. We have a sizable treasury, and the way we're going to market the casino itself is through primarily sponsorships. We're going to be doing sponsorships. We're going to do partnerships. So what this means is, with sponsorships, we aim to sponsor certain esports teams as well as gaming guilds in the space. Daylight has a vision to brand itself to become Daylight.gg in the future, and become a real betting platform that actually backs up gaming ecosystems and teams. And number two is via partnerships. So what we do is, we're not going to provide our games as a service, but we're going to be incorporating other projects' tokens into our games, meaning that if we partner up with Cardinal House, for example, people would be able to buy into the casino with Cardinal tokens. And, what happens is that those Cardinal tokens are basically paid to the treasury. We have the option with governance to do certain burns on them that would also create great price appreciation for Cardinal itself. And at the same time, it brings the deflationary aspect into place again, because Daylight tokens and Seed Daylight tokens are still being burned.
Got it. Very interesting. Um, yeah, that definitely makes sense. And kind of with that esports bit, do you guys plan on partnering with an esports org, or would it be like sponsoring to get your name out there? I guess what is the kind of route you guys are taking on that side of things? Because that's an interesting
So
approach
we
that I haven't
know,
seen any casinos
of
bring up.
course, esports is a massive scene at the moment. I don't know if you guys know about Team OG, for instance. They're very, very massive. Dota 2, Counter Strike team. They're actually sponsored by Crypto.com. So, we plan to be a sponsor to such kinds of esports teams. However, before we reach that point, what we're going to do is, we're going to start with smaller sharks in the ocean, such as gaming guilds. Guilds that are poised to lead the revolution, or become the prominent guilds in blockchain gaming itself. We're going to be sponsoring such teams, incorporating their technology into ours, and therefore gaining a lot of exposure through their protocols itself. We could do set tournaments, we could do casino skins of that guild itself, and there's a lot of opportunities to actually acquire more users.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a very interesting approach. So I'm curious to see how that goes, and how that strategy kind of moves forward. I definitely like the unique approach that you guys are taking, because that's a market that is relatively untapped by crypto, right? Like you said, crypto.com has done it. Not very many groups have. Um, and with that, I think it's definitely the right demographic that you're trying to hit to get into crypto. They're the people that understand how technology works, and if they see the right reasons to get into it, I believe that would be very beneficial. So definitely the right marketing strategy, I think there.
One of Daylight's long-term, one of Daylight's penultimate visions is basically to encourage blockchain adoption for traditional finance users, and I think this, with the way we're actually treading these waters, we're pivoting the project in a direction that is basically setting us up to achieve that goal. However, it does take the support of community, it does take the support of initial investors, and it does take support of user acquisition within this industry itself before we're able to expand and basically, and cover the traditional finance industries as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a very interesting conversation topic. So we got another one coming in. Are there any plans of getting nodes or something along those lines to get consistent revenue outside of investor income? Do you guys plan on any specific service that projects will want to utilize, and not be like a competitive service where you're kind of having to compete against what other casinos are offering?
Of course. So the only service that we're providing is, to existing projects. And when I say existing projects, um, it's because we do have a service planned in our roadmap as well for projects that are fundraising. So for existing projects, as I said before, we do have certain integration opportunities for them to be a part of our ecosystem as well as partner up with us. We can create some chips that look like their tokens, some casino skins, some special rooms for them, as well as have, their players buy in with a portion of, with a set amount of their tokens to play into the casino. And there are some revenue and profit sharing opportunities over there. Because essentially, when you cash out from the casino, you're losing, and the house takes a 5% fee. So that 5% fee can basically go towards our token partners and be split as a profit share, which, if we're expecting even $1 million of volume a day, it's a very substantial amount of profit. And, in terms of consistent revenue outside of investor income, something that we've incorporated into Daylight itself is the ability to. So we have something that, is an underlying mechanism for additional sustainability. Now, this is also to build our liquidity as opposed to, generating revenue itself. So what we're doing to build our liquidity is basically we're doing arbitrage of our liquidity pools in order to not only balance the liquidity pools but to pocket the profits. I wouldn't say pocket, but obtain profits from, arbitraging those liquidity pools. These profits are 100% reinvested into liquidity.
Gotcha. Very interesting. I like the fact that they go right back into liquidity, though. Definitely an interesting way to go about things with the arbitrage. I think a lot of
And
projects utilize it, but yeah. Sorry, go on.
the thing with the arbitrage itself is the higher the volume, the more exponential, your gains will be because of the large amount of on-chain transactions, where you're basically able to buy at a lower price and sell to a higher price to the buyer itself, and same thing goes for sells. Now, what this does is it generates a very small amount of revenue for us, and that is reinvested into liquidity. It is generated revenue, but we're not actually taking any of it into our treasury. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we want to build a very good liquidity to circulating supply ratio and eventually have more liquidity backing the actual supply itself. That's a long-term goal of ours.
Gotcha. Okay. That's definitely a very good goal. It's one of the things that will be tougher to do as you guys kind of are starting, but once you get those revenue streams set up, it should slowly become a little bit easier within the protocol. I think the biggest thing to always be aware of is that a lot of the revenue streams depend on the volume of transactions happening on the network. So it's definitely something to be aware of and continue to try and build out. And that, depending on how the initial pre-sales go, that could really determine whether or not the volume is significant enough after launch in order to kind of continue that revenue stream and continue building on that LP. But definitely an interesting way that you guys are choosing to go about this.
I feel like a lot of projects, especially in this market, are, I would say, ambitious when it comes to fundraising. What they're doing is basically setting up a fair launch and doing their IDO right after, but at a very high soft and hard cap. Now, there's nothing to actually justify how they're going to raise these funds. So let's say if we were to go for a fair launch and we set it for 1 to 2 million, it could be feasible in the sense of, yes, we could fill it out, but we're going to be spending a lot of initial capital to build this out. So what we're doing to mitigate this risk, of course, is using some initial capital, building out a pre-sale that is substantially smaller, creating some sort of incentivized mechanisms for these pre-sale token holders. We actually plan to have the pre-sale tokens rebase so that the pre-salers would get, an exponentially high return, ridiculous returns on launch itself. But the other thing that we have in mind is we could keep it non-rebasing but still have it at a 4x. However, this gives us an avenue to use these pre-sale funds to raise a bigger 8 to 10x capital with it. So that, in a sense, is very realistic even in a bear market. I would say that we could probably raise 20x in a bull with that amount of money.
Yeah, I think it's exponentially greater the amount of money that you can raise in the bull run. I don't think anyone here would be able to deny that 100%. But kind of moving forward, is there anything else that we haven't touched up on that you guys wanted to touch up with the ecosystem?
Of course.
Yeah.
So first I'm going to answer Nick's question. Sea Daylight is actually our emission-based token, which also has a play-to-win utility. It also has other certain mechanisms such as auto reflections in the form of daylight tokens, as well as a certain amount of the swap fees on the DEX that are contributed towards it. And on top of that would be the feature of governance. So Daylight is the other token, which is a deflationary rebase token. So we have 2 tokens in the pipeline. And to answer your question, Chris, we do have something that we're bringing out in the space that is very new, and it's something that is very different to a lot of other rebase protocols. And the only reason that we're able to do this is because our APY decays. Now we don't I've seen a lot of other projects that planned a high APY, but with no actual future plan to sustain it, as we saw with Titano, which was the pioneer in the space. High APYs are just not sustainable. It doesn't work. It's good for initial user acquisition and building up a sizable treasury, but it's not something that would suffice long term. Therefore, we have a decaying APY. Another feature that we have, which is really, really interesting, is called the price to tax ratio. And this is one of our innovative appreciating sustainability measures. The price to tax ratio is basically, some lines of code incorporated into our smart contracts that enables the daylight token, which is the rebase token, to never fall below a previous price, which means we're never going to see a reverse 100x like some of the rebase tokens in the space. And we have basically no reason to say that the APY offsets the price reduction, and that's why we're able to reduce the APY.
Gotcha. Definitely an important aspect to remember as well. The APY decreasing lowers that needed revenue in order to keep that feasible option. So I completely understand why you guys are going with that. You call it the decaying APY, which is a kind of interesting name there as well. But yeah, if you guys do have any other questions, feel free to DM or I guess join their Discord if we wouldn't mind posting a link, Zach. I'm not 100% sure if you have already, but throw it in the AMA questions chat. And then feel free to go and ask anything you guys got. And I guess right now we actually have something special that they brought up. They believe you guys are giving 10 whitelist spots for that initial raise. Is that correct, Ed?
Correct. So we're giving out 10 whitelist spots. Maybe you guys can run like a Reacts giveaway or whatever it
Yes.
is, and the winners can basically come open a ticket in our Discord, just drop their address, and they'll get one.
Awesome. So we can set that up, Zach. If you wouldn't mind doing that at some point today, and we will get that all to you. So be tuned. We'll probably leave it open for 24 hours, and then have that giveaway run. And anyone that pops in there reacts to that message, you guys will be entered, and we will let you know that you won if you did. And so thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate our audience always coming in and hanging out with us for the last hour. It does mean a lot that we have you guys each and every day with all the AMAs that we're coming up with. But thank you guys for coming on from Daylight as well, and let us know if there's anything else we can do for you guys. It's a pleasure talking to you guys for the last hour.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for being a great host. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to showing our faces from time to time in Cardinal for certain discussions. Also sharing some knowledge around the block.
Awesome. Sounds great. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Same to you, Chris. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, guys.
Have a nice one.